Good afternoon, everyone. A powerful, damaging hurricane is hours away from our coast. It packs punishing storm surge, fierce winds, and torrential rains. If you've been asked to evacuate, don't wait. Leave now. You put your life at risk by staying. Don't plan to leave once the winds and rain start. Don't try to drive on flooded roads. Those flood waters can be deadly. Don't expect first responders to be able to get to you during the storm if you decide to stay. Yesterday, I ordered a state evacuation of North Carolina's barrier islands, from the Virginia line to the South Carolina line. Thanks to our local partners, many evacuation orders are in place for other areas, and I urge residents to heed those orders. Go now. 750,000 to 1 million North Carolinians have been asked to evacuate. If you aren't under evacuation orders, now's the time to finish preparations and get ready to hunker down. Understand that the rain may last for days and will be measured in some places in feet and not inches. Finish gathering your supplies, food, water, batteries, flashlights, medications. Plan to be without power for days. And check on your family and your neighbors to make sure they are prepared as well. Florence is now a Category 3 storm, but don't let that fool you. We are on the wrong side of this storm, where most of the damage is done. The forecast tells us that Florence's storm surge will drown many homes. Expert modeling here at North Carolina Emergency Management shows that storm surge alone is likely to flood tens of thousands of structures. A storm doesn't have to make landfall in North Carolina to do serious damage here. It still packs powerful winds that can damage roofs and down power lines and trees, plus heavy, sustained rain that can flood our rivers and low-lying grounds. Remember that rivers can continue to rise long after the rain stops. Our coast will feel the wrath of Florence starting tomorrow in the morning, but all parts of North Carolina will see some impacts. We expect this storm to be with us for days. More shelters continue to open to take in people displaced by evacuations. At least 50 shelters are open now across the state. And in fact, officials will open at 6 p.m. a large shelter at Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem. Capacity there will be at least 1,000. And we're grateful to Wake Forest University and the community there for helping. I've activated more National Guard soldiers. By this evening, 2,800 will have reported for duty. Many state parks and museums have closed or will be closed tomorrow. Nearly all state universities have canceled classes, and many public schools are closing as well, plus providing their buildings as shelters. 211 is available 24 hours a day for people in need of assistance. This statewide information line can provide callers with nearby shelter, housing, and other storm-related information and resources. For the deaf and hard of hearing, this number is 888-892-1162. And we're glad to have Monica McGee here providing American Sign Language for us. We're hearing reports of some gas stations with empty pumps. Suppliers tell us that we have an ample supply of fuel in the state, but there are temporary shortages in some locations as people fill up their cars to evacuate. Some stations have seen 3 and 4 times the normal business. Remember that North Carolina's price gouging law is in effect under the state of emergency that I declared last week, And if you spot excessive prices, report it to the North Carolina Attorney General's office by calling 1-877-5-NO-SCAM or file a complaint online at the Attorney General's website. Times of trouble can bring out the best in us. We're hearing kind offers for all kinds of help, and we have set up the North Carolina Disaster Relief Fund to take donations to support response to Hurricane Florence. To donate, visit rebuild.nc.gov. And if you want to volunteer, we urge you to work through established nonprofits and faith-based groups. Volunteer Organizations Active in Disasters, or VOAD, is the best place to start. To the people of North Carolina, thank you for taking this storm seriously. Thank you for following the evacuation orders and for preparing emergency kits. Thank you for taking in friends evacuating from the coast and for checking on neighbors down the street. Continue to watch forecasts closely, and if you're asked to move to higher ground, go. You can download the Ready NC app or follow NC Emergency Management on Facebook and Twitter for updates and to learn how you can weather this storm. We have a strong team here to guide us through Hurricane Florence. We have with me on stage Commissioner Steve Trachsel, the head of Emergency Management, Mike Sprayberry, Transportation Secretary Jim Trogdon, Department of Health and Human Secretary Mandy Cohen, the Commander of the Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil. We have with us Major General Jim Ernst of the North Carolina National Guard. We have our Federal Coordinating Officer for FEMA, Albie Lewis. And I'm grateful to have other members here helping us. I'm first going to recognize Mike Sprayberry with Emergency Management to give us an update. Mike?
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everybody. The State Operations Center is transitioning from a level 2 to a level 1 at this time. This is a disaster requiring the participation of all state emergency response team members to include our federal, private sector, and volunteer partners. We're also in close coordination by the hour with the National Hurricane Center, as well as the National Weather Service and FEMA, and we're also having conference calls with our county partners to make sure that we're staying up to date with all of their needs. We are currently pushing commodities, cots, and other resources to those county partners at this time. We continue to amass resources such as additional soldiers and airmen, ambulances, search and rescue task forces, helicopters, swiftwater rescue teams, commodities, and generators to aggressively surge during the response. With the triple threat of high winds, historical precipitation, and high storm surge, we again urge our residents and visitors to heed the evacuation orders of the governor and your local officials. Make sure you have your emergency kits ready and you're looking out for your neighbors. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Last week I issued an emergency declaration to help our farmers, and to give us a report on agriculture in North Carolina, we have Agriculture Commissioner Steve Trachsel with us. Steve?
Thank you, Governor Cooper. I want to give you a little update on agriculture in North Carolina. I think you realize that this is the fall of the year. This is the time that farmers normally see some benefit from the hard work that they've gone through during the summer. So we're right in harvest season, and it's unfortunate that we're going to have to endure this, but we've done it before, and preparation is key. And after the declaration of emergency and the things that have been done for agriculture, including the suspension of the weights and measures, extension of driving hours to deliver fuel and feed to our livestock operations, farmers have made some progress, but it's not through by any means. And just to give you an idea, where we are in agriculture. We may have 60% of the tobacco harvested in North Carolina. Corn harvest ranges from 75% in the east to just beginning in the west. Unfortunately, sweet potatoes and peanuts are just getting underway with harvest, and I remind you that we're #1 in the nation in sweet potatoes. Soybeans have just begun harvest in the very far eastern part of North Carolina, but have not begun anywhere else in the state. And basically, all of our cotton is still in the field as I speak today. The thing that I know is the things that are associated with a hurricane like this are very damaging to agriculture, whether it be flooding, wind, or rain. All of them they're bad for agriculture at this time of year. We have a large livestock industry in North Carolina. That's 68% of the farm gate revenues, and fortunately, we have learned a lot over the years, ranging from Hurricane Florence to just Hurricane Matthew 2 years ago. We have learned a lot about how to handle this, and preparation is key. We have been able to draw down lagoon levels to the point that we believe that we can handle the rain that would fall out of a hurricane like this, but we don't know what river flooding will mean, and that will be another key that we have to deal with as time goes on. We can draw these lagoons down under the management of DEQ for the precise application of nutrients to land, so we've done that. Animals are moved to higher ground. Some animals have gone into the market to lessen the probability of them being in harm's way. So the preparation has been done, and now it's up to Mother Nature as to what happens. I can tell you that our livestock industry did a phenomenal job with Hurricane Matthew, and even though we had a few losses of livestock, it was minimal compared to the number that we have. We had about 2,800 pigs that were lost, but compared to the 9.1 million pigs that we have, it's very minimal. We did lose 1.8 million birds during that event, but compared to the 800 million that we have in North Carolina, it's very, very minimal. So we've become very good at this. We have closed lagoons in flood-prone areas, and when you get a tremendous amount of water like we're going to see out of this event, there are studies that have been done about what are the pollution levels afterwards, and what has been found, there's so much water and so much dilution, even with municipal waste treatment plants failing, other types of pollution, it's diluted to the point that it's not really a problem. So I guess that's a silver lining in what we're going to see. So I thank you for the opportunity, Governor. I thank you for what you've done to let farmers get their crops out of the field, and all we can do now is hope and pray for the best.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll now have the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen, to talk about public health. Dr. Cohen.
Thank you, Governor. Good evening. As we said, health and safety is our top priority. So 3 things for you to remember today. First, as the Governor mentioned, make sure you have food, water, and your medications. Importantly, if you need refills of your medications, do that today. Do not wait. Second, do not drive through standing water. We saw in Hurricane Matthew that this was a leading cause of death. Do not drive through standing water. And third, do not use gas-powered generators inside your home. There is a risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Do not use gas-powered generators in your home. So please remember those 3 important tips. Know that we have shelters across the state stood up with medical personnel. We are working with long-term care facilities, adult care facilities to make sure that folks are well cared for and moved to safer areas. So please heed the warning of emergency management. Get your food, water, and medicines. Do not drive through standing water, and please don't use gas-powered generators in your home. Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you, Secretary Cohen. We'll now have our Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Jim Trachsel, to give us a transportation overview.
Thank you, Governor. Today, our focus was monitoring and managing all of our evacuation routes. and we successfully met the metric of all of our routes we're operating at posted speeds or better today. We responded across those routes with 49 incident management and assistance patrols, and those are events where we're supporting stranded motorists to clear those incidents quickly, and that included 5 motor vehicle crashes that occurred on our evacuation routes. The ferry division did conclude evacuation of the Outer Banks at Ocracoke, and that included moving more than 2,000 people and evacuating more than 1,000 vehicles. And so those operations were completed as of yesterday, and the ferries will be mooring those vessels for the remainder of until the storm passes. And then last, our focus was completing our coordination with all of our private sector partners, and so we anticipate we'll be bringing on 380 contractors across the state that will be supporting us in all areas of response, from clearing debris to repairing roads to repairing bridges. That concludes my update.
Thank you, Secretary Trogdon. We'll now hear from the Commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel Glenn McNeil. Colonel.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. The safety of our motoring public remains the Highway Patrol's highest priority. The Highway Patrol is continuing its preparations in response of the storm. Squads of troopers have been assembled and they're ready to deploy at a moment's notice in response of the storm. We continue to work with our local, county, and state partners to ensure that assistance is immediately available once the call comes. With this in mind, I'd like to identify how the motoring public can assist us with our public safety mission. In the event that you're involved in a collision, please remove your vehicle from the travel lanes to the shoulder of the roadway and wait for first responders to arrive. Doing so will allow for a continuous flow as we are still in the evacuation process. Motorists are encouraged to avoid leaving their vehicles unattended within the medians and along the shoulders of our roadways. Troopers, along with our partners with DOT, will be immediately and are immediately removing vehicles from the evacuation routes to ensure that the safety of other motorists and emergency responders. Motorists are encouraged, please keep emergency lines of communications such as 911 and Star HP open for emergency purposes only. Roadway conditions can be obtained from visiting drivenc.gov. And finally, and once again, when the rain begins to fall, please, under no circumstances do you attempt to cross standing water or running and raging water that's going across the roadway. Doing so could place your life and the lives of emergency responders in harm's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. We'll now open it for any questions anybody might have. Yes.
Governor, do you know, is there any count of how many people are left on like Ocracoke and the main lower part of Hatteras Island below the bridge and the other barrier islands?
Have we got local government reports on that, Mike?
Not yet, sir. Some people are still leaving, and so it's a hard number to get a count of right now.
We're working with local governments to get a count of that. We're continuing to encourage people to leave. We've said time and again, we know a lot of our coastal residents have ridden out storms before. This should not be one of those storms. Don't risk your life riding out a monster, and that's what this is. So we're continuing to urge people to evacuate.
I'm looking for another number. I think Mike said 4,000 roughly people in shelters as of earlier today. Do you have an updated number on that?
Yes, sir. So we're thinking that number's had an uptick now between 4,000 and 5,000. We know that the shelters in Wake County are full, and folks are moving west. We've had additional shelters opening in Charlotte today, and so and then we know that some of the counties in the eastern part of the state have also opened shelters. We'll have a better sense of that tonight. There's a standard number count that comes in a little bit later through the American Red Cross channel.
We know the count at our shelters is sometimes fluid because some people come and stay a little while and then find somewhere else to go. We think there's somewhere between 750,000 and 1 million people who have evacuated, and we want to thank citizens of North Carolina, family members, for taking people in, and we're going to try to continue to set up shelters to make sure people have a place to go.
You mentioned Joel in Winston-Salem. Are there contingency plans for other arena types of places, either in Raleigh or Asheville or other areas?
Mike, you want to address that?
Yes, sir. We're working other bigger locations in places like Charlotte and Fayetteville, as well as Winston-Salem. So we have to make sure that we have the teams that can go into a big place like that. So we're assembling teams, working through some contracts that we might have to go through, like we did with Lawrence Joel Coliseum. So we are looking for more mega shelters as needed.
I think this is, I know this is something that we talked about and considered when we knew we were going to have to put in these mandatory evacuations and so many people moving west. But I think it's going well, and I think we, again, thank the people at Wake Forest University for making the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum available. Other questions? Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
Just for out-of-state resources, a lot of other states are sending in linemen and other out-of-state resources. How are those being managed and assigned?
Well, first, we are grateful to other states that have stepped up. I've talked to numerous governors. I was in Kinston today and met with search and rescue teams from New York, New Jersey, Ohio. States are responding with equipment and personnel. You know, we've helped them over the years, and now they are in turn helping us. And our Emergency Operations Center is helping to direct those resources where they are needed. Mike, you got anything you wanted to say about that?
Yes, sir.
You can.
So we have a Regional Coordinating Center East in Kinston and a Regional Coordinating Center Central up in Butner. And as resources are required by counties, we have the resources chopped out down to the counties to help them respond to whatever hazard or need that they have. And so what you'll see is that we have a lot of folks in what we call a staging area, and that's where the governor was today visiting those folks. And so as the resource requests come in, they get mission assigned to go out to the county, and that's how we basically we're organized, and that's how we manage them.
Okay, right now we plan to have another briefing at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you very much.